Manx Radio's Update with Dave Moore.
Fast am I. The time is 5 o'clock. You're listening to Manx Radio. I'm Dave Moore, and this is Update. Welcome to the programme. Half an hour of the latest news in the Isle of Man, plus Manx sport, business and travel updates, along with the newsmakers in person. Coming up, Thomas MHK has been removed from his position in the Department of Health and Social Care. We'll have the latest. The redevelopment of Ramsey is back on the agenda in the House of Keys. Plus, the Civil Aviation Authority has issued figures for flights departing the island in August. All that and more coming up in the next half hour. But first of all, the Update news headlines with Christian Jones. Fast am I.
Douglas Central MHK Chris Thomas has been sacked as political member for the Department of Health and Social Care after just over 2 weeks in the job. Government has confirmed Mr Thomas's involvement in publicly calling for the Chief Minister's resignation is behind the decision. In a letter seen by Manx Radio, Chief Minister Alfred Cannon accuses Mr Thomas of directly undermining the relationship between the Minister and departmental member. The Isle of Man had on average the fewest flight cancellations of any of the Crown dependencies during August. Figures revealed by the Civil Aviation Authority show 1.4% of air traffic failed to fly from Ronaldsway. And Isle of Man-based food and drink producers have the chance to showcase their products at the upcoming international food event. Business Isle of Man is making funding available for producers with a proven export model. In international news, American media is reporting Kamala Harris will call Donald Trump to concede defeat in the US election. Voters have chosen to put the convicted criminal back in the White House in a monumental political comeback. He passed the 270 Electoral College votes needed to claim victory. Mr. Trump will become the first president in around 130 years to serve separate terms in office. 3 men have been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter after a house explosion in Newcastle last month killed 2 people. One was a 7-year-old boy. And Manchester City have been ordered to pay Benjamin Mendy £8.5 million by a tribunal. The Premier League champion stopped his salary when he was charged with sex offences in August 2021. The defender was later cleared of all charges. Those are the Update news headlines next at 6.
Thank you, Christian. And Christian will be joining us in the studio shortly to discuss the situation regarding Chris Thomas. First of all, though, the weather cloudy this evening with light or moderate south or southeast winds, extensive hill fog and the continuing threat of some patchy drizzle. A mild night with minimum temperature no lower than 12 Celsius. Another largely cloudy day tomorrow, mostly dry with a chance of a little brightness during the afternoon. A moderate to fresh south-easterly wind with highs once again around 14 Celsius. And remaining settled on Friday, with most places staying dry but rather cloudy with a moderate to fresh southeast wind. Maximum temperature then around 13 Celsius.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
SMS Trading have moved to 3 St Paul's Square, Ramsey. For flat pack to fully built, new or second-hand furniture, SMS Trading offer all-island delivery and man-in-a-van service. Call 315151 or find SMS Trading on Facebook.
See the island like you've never seen it before on an incredible chauffeur-driven trike tour. A unique way to make memories that will last a lifetime. Gift vouchers available too. See iomtriketours.com for details and booking.
A great night's sleep got even better with Zed's Bedding Store. From quality Bell-Dorm bed linen and mattress protectors, fleece and woven throws to luxury duvets from the fine bedding company. Zed's Bedding Ramsey, next to Isle of Man Bank.
If you run a small business or just need more room in the back, Philshaw Vehicles has the perfect van or light commercial for all your needs and can sort out any finance. Based in the Tremode estate, view philshawvehicles.im or call 49 51 49.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Well, the big news of the day, Douglas Central MHK Chris Thomas sacked as a political member for the Department of Health and Social Care after being in the job for only 2 weeks. Well, Christian joins us now. And Christian, can you talk us through what's brought us to this point?
Yeah, so earlier today we received a tip-off by an inside source that Chris Thomas had left the Department of Health and Social Care. We, of course, contacted government to confirm whether this was true, and in the last 30 minutes, the Isle of Man government has issued a statement saying Mr Thomas has been dismissed from his post.
We often hear the phrase, a fortnight is a long time in politics, but not for Mr Thomas on this occasion.
No, exactly. I mean, for some context, there are multiple elements which have led to this. We had the no confidence motion in the Chief Minister, which was brought to the House of Keys and debated at length. Mr Cannon survived that, but Mr Thomas did back it and he voted to oust the Chief. So although we can't definitively say that's the sole reason, it does go some way to explaining how things are panning out. I do actually have a copy of the letter which the Chief Minister sent to Chris Thomas here, and I'll just read a small bit. It says, the Council have reflected on the events of the last 2 weeks, and in particular your decision to declare your candidacy for Chief Minister and seek my resignation through seconding and supporting the vote of no confidence in Keys. He then goes on to accuse Mr Thomas of undermining a required positive relationship between the Minister and departmental member as set out in the government code. Meanwhile, the official statement in the last half hour from the government says the move follows Mr Thomas's decision to publicly call for the Chief's resignation and declare his candidacy while serving under the Chief in his capacity as Interim Minister for Health and Social Care. Furthermore, a brief comment from the Chief also says it's regrettable that Mr Thomas's recent actions have required the Council of Ministers to take this step. Am
I right in thinking during that no confidence debate that there were calls for unity amongst members, and this is kind of making divisions even wider, is it not?
I can't possibly comment on that, but the Chief Minister did say that he would learn from the things which he heard in the debate. He also said he would take time to reflect on those.
OK, and with regards to Chris Thomas, will we be hearing from Chris Thomas?
Yes, we will be speaking with him about this, and we'll bring you that tomorrow morning in Manx Radio Breakfast.
Excellent. Thank you, Christian.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Sticking with the House of Keys, and the topic of redeveloping Ramsey was discussed there this week. The subject was raised by local MHK Laurie Hooper and directed to Enterprise Minister Tim Johnson. Manx Radio's John Moss asked the other Ramsey representative, Dr Alex Allinson, if this marked a combined effort to get things moving.
The debate today was very much about that and the local economy strategy being promoted by the Department for Enterprise, who have already engaged with the Northern Chamber of Commerce to look at how we can link the traders of Ramsey, the local authority, but also national government as well. So one of the things that came up and has come up, I've been approached already by commissioners, would be the quayside, for instance. If we're going to develop some of the brownfield sites, the empty sites along the quayside, do we need to crack on and do the flood defences and rebuild the roadway there? Because obviously that would really potentiate those sites coming back into active use. And that is something that certainly Treasury and the DOI are working together on at the moment to try to get over the line.
But you've got over the flooding problem, obviously. A quayside location is an attractive location. We've seen that in Douglas. That's been developed. But one wonders why it hasn't been developed yet.
I mean, Ramsey is a bit unique in that the main thoroughfare, most of the shops are on Parliament Street, not on the quayside. We've got some very good pubs there, and actually some more shops have moved to the quayside now, and it is quite vibrant, but it's a working harbour, so you need to balance that residential use, the retail use, and the commercial use, and I think we do that quite well. But over the years, a couple of sites have become quite prominent and a bit of an eyesore, and so as Minister Johnson was saying, the infrastructure investment scheme is already looking to try to help some private investors bring those sites back into economic use. But certainly in terms of government, both the DOI and Treasury will be working together with the local commissioners to try to free up some of the sites that need to be brought back into use as well.
When can we see something happening?
Well, we've already agreed a number of proposals put forward for the DOI, not just in Ramsey, but also in other areas, to do the preliminary work that needs to be done to improve highways, to improve roadways, to improve the infrastructure of the town, to then drive that private investment forward.
Then you go to one site, I think the Albert Road site, that could be a crux. I mean, once that's done and it sets a good example, it might prompt others to follow.
Yeah, and that's gone in a full circle. I understand that the commissioners have got some very good ideas for putting social housing on part of that site. What we need to do is free up some of the borrowing that they need to put into that development, and certainly I've been working with DOI to try to make sure that we drive that forward in the future.
Ramsey MHK, Alex Allenson talking to Manx Radio's John Moss there about the possibility of the redevelopment of Ramsey. The Isle of Man had, on average, the fewest flight cancellations of the Crown dependencies during August. Figures revealed by the Civil Aviation Authority show 1.4% of air traffic failed to fly from Ronaldsway. Amy Griffiths has this report.
Of the 826 scheduled flights due to depart during August, 12 were cancelled. During the same period, almost 2% of services out of Jersey failed to take off. Figures for Guernsey and Alderney are even worse, with both airports recording around 4.5% cancellations. When compared with destinations the island serves, the picture is not so good. Around 0.5% of flights out of Liverpool and Manchester were cancelled, with Belfast International, Birmingham, Bristol and Edinburgh also recording less than 1%. The island's total of 1.4% is comparable with Gatwick, which had 1.3%, while Heathrow fared slightly worse at 1.6%.
It is hoped a new extension to foster carer recruitment will encourage people to get involved who want to foster but may not have the time or ability to do so. The Family Placement Service is looking for people who can spare a few days or weeks at a time to support foster carers by taking care of children for short breaks. Manx Care's Fostering and Adoption Group Manager Ed Coates says there's a whole range of reasons why families need short breaks.
They just need time for each other sometimes, because looking after this child can be very time demanding and energy sapping sometimes. So they need time for each other, and time's a big issue. Sometimes it might be for just to go out for a meal together as a couple, because you can't do that when you've got a child who actually needs 24/7 cover. Time to give to their other children's a really big one, and that can be just on an informal basis. It could be on a regular basis because that child needs to be taken to the, I don't know, dance, ballet class, football, whatever it is. Or it could be something really important like taking them around universities to get them to, give them that time and energy and thought and focus, really. So there's a whole range of reasons why families might need this. For both parents to share something with the child together with another child in the family. So this was something one of my colleagues explained, that the other child had never had their mum and dad in a room together without interruption. And just something as simple as that kind of brought it home to me that one day a week would just give them that opportunity, which would be really, really valuable. And so all of these things help those families to cope and to come back with renewed energy.
Manx Care's Fostering and Adoption Group Manager Ed Coates. Moving on to the markets, and UK and European stocks reversed earlier gains in afternoon trade as investors digested Donald Trump's defeat of his Democrat rival Kamala Harris in the US presidential election. The dollar rallied broadly as traders remain cautious ahead of the US Fed's interest rate decision tomorrow. US crude oil fell as the Energy Information Administration released a report showing crude oil inventories rebounded by more than expected. Gold prices traded lower and the dollar held strong after Republican Donald Trump claimed victory in the 2024 presidential contest. Shares in Ashtead Group soared today on hopes that US revenues at the British firm would be boosted following the historic re-election of Trump as president. The equipment rental company has considerable exposure to the US through American Arm Sunbelt. Onto the markets at the close. The FTSE 100 was at 8166. That's down 0.07%. The Dow Jones is at 43,556. That's up 3.16%. The Nasdaq 18,439. That's up 1.43%. The exchange rates, the pound against the dollar, 1.288, and against the euro, 1.200. In commodities, gold is at $2,666 US. That's down 2.81%. With Brent at $75.10 US dollars. That's down 0.42%.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Crookall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
2:45.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Right, we will now address the Nigel Dobson story, who is a candidate in the upcoming Onchan by-election. He says he's standing for a good working local authority for residents. Mr Dobson's a former commissioner for Garth, previously stood for Onchan commissioners. He hopes to draw on that experience if he is elected.
I was a commissioner, first of all, for Lonnan many years ago. It was part of the formation of Garth, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. But when my business in Lonnan closed 7 or 8 years ago, it came to the election of commissioners last time round, and I didn't feel it right to be standing in Garth because I had no connection with Garth anymore because I live in Onchan. And so I stood for Onchan, and I lost. So I'm standing again. I enjoy the work. I enjoy being part of the community. Fairly or otherwise, Onchan commissioners very often seem to get a bit of bad press, as if there's some kind of rivalry going on. I don't know how true that is, but I just felt that I've got a lot of experience. I've dealt with people with different views in the past. I was chair of Garth for 3 years consecutively, and I just feel that perhaps I can offer something.
There are some well-reported and well-known problems between the commissioners. What do you think of that, and how do you think you might be able to work with them?
I think the first thing to say is that I'm not particularly on either side, and I don't know what all the differences are. I fear that some of them may be personality clashes as opposed to political clashes. And I think to get in there and just try to emphasise to everybody that we're here to work for the people of Onchan, not our own particular agendas, whatever they may be.
What would you like to achieve? Obviously, it's only a very short time before the next election. So what would you hope to achieve?
Not a great deal, to be honest. I think anybody who thinks that they can get elected in November, when there's another election next April, in that 5-6 month period, you're going to make a huge difference. You're not. What you can do is learn what the difficulties are, learn what the finances are, learn what the needs are, and be in a position, if elected again in April, to hit the ground running and start moving then.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
We have some delays to tell you about. We'll begin with the sailings and the Manxman, which was due to leave Heysham at 2:15 this afternoon. Well, unfortunately, due to an accident on the M6 this morning, it closed the road for a considerable amount of time, and that meant that the Manxman eventually got away around 3 o'clock this afternoon and is expected to arrive sometime between 6 and 7 this evening. It's still showing as a 7:45 departure from Douglas for the return back to Heysham. And in terms of the airport, I understand there is in terms of departures, Liverpool is due to go at 6:20, and also Edinburgh is due to leave at 7:55. They're both Logan Air flights. And in terms of arrivals, everything is actually showing on time. So the Manchester is coming in at 6:10. It was the Heathrow from this afternoon which was slightly delayed, but Manchester is due in at 6:10, Edinburgh at 7:25, London City at 8:15, and Liverpool at 8:15 as well. All Logan Air services.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at
Quayside.
An autistic man says the Isle of Man is not as inclusive as it suggests and is calling for a champion to represent the community. It comes after his support worker, which amounts to an hour each week, was replaced with a mental health worker. The man, who's asked to remain anonymous, says he wasn't informed why, and without the appropriate support, he feels let down by the government and Manx Care.
I've been receiving one-to-one autism support from autism initiatives for the last 3 years. I had a very good support worker who helped me in a lot of very practical ways. Then, a few weeks ago, there was a meeting to which I was not invited, and I received a phone call saying that my autism initiative support was being withdrawn, but without a reason. I was just numb. My support has kept me out of Milan in court on at least one occasion, and you'd have thought 1 hour a week support is better than 168 hours a week of care. I felt lost. I emailed my MHKs, the head of the health service, the Autism Strategy Oversight Committee, and MCALS. I got an acknowledgement from the executive assistant of the head of Manx Care. The Autism Strategy Oversight Committee said, well, it's not really about us. And I replied to that, well, yes, it is. MCALS, who are the only people who've really seemed to have taken this seriously, have passed it on to the Care Quality and Complaints Department, to whom I've had one meeting with a representative. At that meeting, I found out that 6 months in, the autism strategy, Manx Care have not been asked to implement it. Therefore, they are not legally or honour bound to provide the support. There are 6 principles in the autism strategy. I feel that I am being let down on 5 of them. I have been allocated a mental health support worker, but she cannot give me autism support. Despite what a lot of people think, autism is not a mental health condition. No, it's a lifelong disability. And I hate to say, use that word, but it's the only word that can really express that.
In response, the Department of Health and Social Care says it's unable to comment on patient-specific circumstances, and they would direct the individual to speak to his current mental health workers of MCALS in relation to his concern. It added the appointment of an autism champion would be a political decision. You can find the full statement at manxradio.com, and Manx Care has also been contacted for a comment. Now then, an opportunity to explore the wide range of courses provided at UCM is being offered at an open evening at its Homefield Road campus. It will run between 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock on Thursday, the 14th of November. UCM Principal Jess Kelly told Simon Richardson there's more education pathways they provide than some might realise.
For the size of the college, it has to offer a lot for the island, and so we cover just about every sector possible in terms of our qualifications and courses, and also enable students, if they want to study right through from level 1 to level 7, whilst also gaining skills like English and maths along the way. So it's really a broad offer, recognising the different sectors that exist on the island, and all our courses are discussed with employers and with the government to look at the sort of options that are available and what employers are looking for in particular from those courses.
And a key element in recent years has been the chance to take degree-level courses on island. Is that proving popular?
Yes, it is, and this year I'm delighted to be seeing a new course offering in pipeline in social sciences with criminology as a pathway in that, and that's certainly a popular offer for students off island, and we think that'll be something that'll be welcomed on island as well, as it supports progression into a wide range of vocational roles as well. So we're always refreshing that offer and thinking of different ways to attract HE students, as we recognise lots of people on the island want to study and remain on the island as well.
I suppose that it's inevitable that the number of spaces on each course are limited, so it's important for people to go along to an event like this and at least register an interest.
It certainly is. I think go along, talk to the tutors, talk to the support staff, get an understanding of what you will need for those courses and discuss your options with the staff. Of course, we do have students who may not always get the grades they expected at the end of the year as well, but we always try and reassure them that there will be an alternative offer that will enable them to get to where they want to, just with a little bit of extra time involved. So I think there's that chance to discuss if you've got any concerns about your potential grades or where you are currently. That's a really good option. Likewise, we offer English and maths up to level 2 free for adults, and that's often a sort of entry point into re-engaging with education as well. So people will be on hand to talk about that too.
UCM Principal Jess Kelly talking to Manx Radio's Simon Richardson. Time now for sport. Joining us is Manx Radio Sports Editor Rob Pritchard. Faster my.
Faster my, Dave. Starting us off tonight, Isle of Man international judo competitor Chris Horton has completed a busy campaign at this year's IJF World Championships Veterans in Las Vegas. Representing Great Britain in the M3 under 100 kg class, Horton exited at the repechage stage following 2 tough opening matches. The first in the preliminary round saw him face and lose out to 2022 world champion Intigam Alakbarov of Azerbaijan, who would eventually go on to claim bronze medal in the category. Into the repechage phase, and it was defeat again for Horton, this time at the hands of Germany's Sasha Hugh. Throughout this year so far, Horton has enjoyed multiple successes whilst competing for both the Isle of Man and Great Britain. In April, he and fellow Manx fighter Sean Askin claimed 3 medals between them at this year's Commonwealth Judo Championships in Malta. There were silver medals at the High Wycombe Masters and British Masters in May and July respectively, whilst he also secured bronze at the Hamburg Veteran European Cup in Germany in September. Elsewhere, tonight sees the meeting of 2 heavyweights in Manx hockey under the floodlights. The rearranged tie in the Mixed Premier League sees defending champions Valkyrie take on current undefeated league leaders Bacchusay at QE2 in Peel at 7:30pm. A win for Valkyries would take them level on points with both Bacchusay and Vikingsay, not to mention it would inflict Bacchus' first defeat of the current campaign. Meanwhile, Bacchusay will be looking to maintain both their unbeaten record and restore their 2-point gap at the summit of the standings. This match was rescheduled from Saturday the 26th of October due to the Isle of Man senior national teams being in action that weekend. And Isle of Man para darts player Callum Brew recently impressed in Europe, reaching the latter stages of 2 WDF competitions in Hungary. The Manx competitor recently contested the Hungarian Darts Open Classic and Masters in Budapest from the 25th to the 27th of October. Brew would go on to reach the semi-finals of the Open Classic event, only beaten by the eventual winner. Meanwhile, he got as far as the quarter-final phase of the Masters, being overcome by the same opponent. Or later this month, Brew returns to action at the 2024 WDF World Para Darts Cup. That's taking place in Assen in the Netherlands from the 22nd to the 24th of November.
Thank you very much, Rob Pritchard.